Ladies and gentlemen, week 2 is almost finished. But while we are going through this field goal fest of Falcons versus Vikings, thank you for joining us here on The Express. We're going to go through every single game that was played today and go over everything that happened in fantasy. Of course, Kevin Tompkins here. Of course, Mr. Nate Polvo. Nate, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Well, I mean, my Broncos lost to Daniel Jones and the Colts today. So it's a little bit of a loaded question. I'm upset, Kevin. We had it in the bag. I didn't see the penalty. Jen and I were chasing children around a massive slide place, like one of those jump places, but for slides.
Oh, the leverage penalty, you mean?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I was told by one of the parents of the children that we dropped off after that it was a BS penalty. I still haven't had time to actually watch the replay.
Well, you can't touch him like at all. That's the thing. That's basically 10 on 11. Like that guy you cannot touch at all, and that's like
sure.
It's a shitty penalty, I guess, because technically they are a member of the football team that you are paying at least 6 figures, but player safety, whether we want to believe that's the thing or not, I guess is, it's whatever.
It depends on who you want to ask, but like all around, it was a really great slate of games today. We were talking about before the show, a lot of action. Even if you're watching that Bears-Lions game, like there was just so much fun. I mean, unless you're a Bears fan, of course, but all around, it was a great slate today, Kevin.
Yeah, man. Usually we get the crappy late game and good early game. We get bad early game and a good late game. We got a mix of both, depending on what side of the aisle you are on with the late game. Certainly, whatever your flavor. If you liked games that went down to the wire with a field goal to win the game, if you liked the Super Bowl rematch, if you like teams actively trying to lose the game, there is something for everybody, especially in the late slate. But we're going to start with the early stuff here. We're going to get right into it with what I believe my choice of game of the day, Dallas and the Giants. At times there was some active losing trying to be had here. But Dallas did prevail 40-37. Definitely a game that, made a lot of people money in DFS. For sure. CeeDee Lamb, 9 for 112. George Pickens got on the board too, 5 for 68 and a touchdown. Kavonte Turpin, 4 for 47 and a touchdown. Jake Ferguson leading the way, 12 targets, 9 for 78. Not too much in terms of like things that really pop out. Your studs got there in a game that had a lot of pass attempts from Dak Prescott. Javonte Williams, I guess, would be like the big story here because he really kept a strong roll. 18 for 97, a touchdown. Miles Sanders had a touchdown as well. It's really just status quo for Dallas, where 64% of the team rush attempts for Javonte Williams. If he's going to keep this role and Jaden Blue's going to be another inactive, I mean, it pains us to say it. He's got to be an RB2.
Well, okay, sure. But I think a lot of us knew this usage was going to continue this week against this Giants defense, right?
There was what he's going to do with it, which he's done, 3 touchdowns in 2 games, and he's looked like a real boy.
He has looked like a real boy against 2 really crappy defenses, though, Kevin. I need to see it next week out of Javonte Williams. Now, if you started him this week, I recommended starting him. Lou recommended, Evan recommended, you recommended. We all recommended it. But I need to see a string of more than 2 games against 2 crappy defenses for Javonte to really be a guy I want to roll out even as an RB2. But it was a nice performance. My question to you about this is, are you concerned that Dallas couldn't put this game away way early against a Giants team that was absolutely putrid last week? Was the Russell Wilson poor performance last week an aberration, or was this the aberration, Kevin?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about this lovely game within a game that we play is now we have two data points now, as opposed to one where we really are still kind of guessing. We're getting a little bit more now this week where, okay, maybe the Giants have some spunkiness to them, but they're probably going to be a bad team. So I think we can kind of say, and they were mixing in Jackson Dart the Giants were. We really got off to Dallas here. There really isn't much to talk about with Dallas, and we will go over to the Giants right now because the Giants, the top two, between Malik Neighbors and Wendell Robinson. Malik Neighbors put people in the dirt today. 9 for 167, yes, 2 touchdowns. A slate high so far, 264 air yards out of Malik Neighbors. Like, Russ was chucking it big time.
Yep.
Wendell Robinson had a 17-yard ADOT today with 174 air yards, 8 for 142 and a touchdown. We know where the targets are going for the Giants. That's great. Sometimes you're going to get a Slayton game. He was 2 for 61. He only had 2 targets, though. Outside of Neighbors and Robinson, he only had 5 targets for Tyrone Tracy, 5 for Theo Johnson. We'll talk about Tracy in a second here, but it's pretty condensed for the most part. Obviously, Neighbors is the top line guy. Wandale is, I believe last year he led the league in third down target share. He's probably going to do that again if it's not going to be Juwan Jennings. It's not going to be him. It's going to be Wandale again. We know the top two here. It's whether there's going to be a third and if Russell Wilson or Jack Stark can support it. I don't think so. But, Wandale at this point, you drafted him to be a PPR kind of scammy flex play.
Sure.
You could probably get him as a low-end wide receiver 3 where you feel a little bit better about starting him. I think a real question would be like a guy like Wandale Robinson or Kayshon Boutte, I think would be a real question in lineups.
I'm more prone to go for Boutte just because he looks more like a wide receiver 1 versus Wandale Robinson, who's obviously behind Malik Neighbors. But that said,
what you got against the short king?
I know, nothing. Well, here's what I have against him is I left him on my bench in my home league, and it cost me. It's one of many decisions. Evan Ingram, Cortland Sutton, Aaron Jones. All of these things cost me this week. But that was one where I didn't want to roll out Wandale Robinson this week, but if I had, it was some 17 points in my home league. So if Russell Wilson continues to play like this, Wandale does become a viable start. I don't think that this offense can possibly, though, support a third receiving option in fantasy.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
Unless it's Theo Johnson. I could see Theo Johnson carving himself a role as we get into the season. It's something we all kind of thought was going to happen last year. It didn't, but it's not Darius Slayton. That's for certain, for me at least.
No, it's not Slayton, and it's nice to see Theo Johnson 77% of the routes today. That's what you want. You want a tight end that gets over 75% of the routes and kind of holds off a lot of the other guys. You don't have to worry about, the Daniel Bellingers and blocking tight ends like Chris Manhertz, kind of taking some stuff off the top there. And that's the one good thing about the Giants is that they don't use, they literally have 3 wide receivers on their roster, at the current time. So they use those 3. They use the 3 tight ends. You don't really have to worry about it. That's condensed to the point where we really haven't seen that from almost any team. You think about the most condensed offenses in the league. You're looking at the Rams, you're looking at the Bengals, you're looking at the Vikings, Falcons. You don't see that kind of, condensed, especially personnel. So, where the targets are going. And then we could go to the running backs now because it looks like Cam Scatterbo is, right on the bumper and it's going to be drifting like it's Mario Kart here. Doing a little swerveroo on Tyrone Tracy. Look, 52% of the snaps for Cam Scatterbo. Probably going to give up some routes to Tyrone Tracy, but 11 carries to 5. We saw Scatterbo get the touchdown, a little over 4 yards per carry. He looked less Carson Steelish and more like an actual running back. So, you know what? You're probably flexing him if you have to start him. I kind of want to see the pass first because we know the Giants are as volatile as hell in terms of their offense because they can look like this and then put up a complete stinker the next week. But he's a guy that's in that, murky running back 2, running back 3 range where if you don't have a better start, I'm fine with Scatterbo, but he has some upside. I'm fine with it.
I don't have an issue with Scatterbo. And looking at the Giants' schedule moving forward here, they got Kansas City and the Chargers at home back-to-back. And they're at New Orleans, Philly, Denver, Philly, San Francisco, Chicago. It's not a great schedule for Scatabo, but at the
Dable's
same
still getting
time,
inspired by that, like, first.
oh my God,
that
absolutely.
Denver game, maybe.
Yeah, I think he makes it through Denver and Philly, but they lose to San Francisco and he gets canned. Because this current iteration of San Francisco, it's not excusable to get blown out, and they probably will. I don't. The thing is, though, with Scatabo, if this team's going to be bad and these bad matchups, they're definitely not going to be able to throw the ball, especially against the Chargers. They're not going to be able to throw the ball against Philly, Denver, then Philly again. They're going to have to try and run the ball and deal with like the short passing game, which obviously benefits Tyrone Tracy. But I think by the time we get to week 5, week 6, it's going to benefit Scatabo as well, because there's going to be so much of it to go around, especially if they've pivoted to Jackson Dart, Kevin.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. Russ probably bought himself another week or so with at least that. So that's, I guess, good for him, and only him. We're all, waiting for the call for Jackson Dart. We're all waiting for the guy to just, we want the righty to
go
get the bullpen out there. But yeah, totally fine for, whoever's going to be there. Now, I do want to see how Jackson Dart's going to operate, because it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be checking, if he's going to be checking down more to Wandale, or, he's going to be able to support guys on the outside. We know that sometimes that's a struggle for guys that are coming in mid-season to pick up the offense, if they're not like already a veteran, to pick up the offense and just, operate it,
Sure.
So that's a question. But, Russ Wilson probably has 1 to 2 weeks, if that, before we see that. And already, he's Dart got mixed in today. So,
right.
Really want to see what he could do, and he was handing off a couple times, and that's whatever.
Realistically, looking at the schedule, I think you're right. We've got 2 more weeks of Russ. We see him against Kansas City. We see him against the Chargers, both home games. But then they go to New Orleans in week 5. And if you're going to roll out a rookie quarterback, that just seems like the right time against that New Orleans defense to me. I mean, of course, we'll see what happens.
Right. Let's go to the next game here. Let's go to Seattle and Pittsburgh. Seattle, 31-17 over the Aaron Rodgers led, quote unquote, Pittsburgh Steelers. We will start with Seattle, though. JSN came off of video game numbers last week. Kind of wanted to see how that was going to shake out a little bit. We saw a lot more out of Cooper Kupp, 7 for 90 on 8 targets. Totally fine. 8 for 103 from JSN on a team leading 9 targets. You love to see that. Torrey Horton got in the end zone. 130 air yards, by the way, for Torrey Horton. If you're a big fan of Josh Hermsmeyer, no doubt Torrey Horton will be on the air yard the buy low model next week. So love that. The barn door was open for AJ Barner, got a touchdown as well. But it's not a great passing game, but the top of the passing game is pretty fine with JSN. You got to like him as a mid to upper range wide receiver 2. Kupp is a fine flex. Probably gonna be more volatile in most because the offense isn't that great. Any thoughts on the passing game? Because I got lots of thoughts on the run game for sure.
Well, as far as look, Darnold is what we thought he was. He had really good protection in Minnesota last year. And I think a lot of us talked about that aspect of, he's playing really well because he has time to throw the ball. But this is the NFL, and that doesn't happen very often. And Seattle's got a poor line. And you saw Darnold getting rushed, getting sacked, making poor decisions today. I don't love this passing game at all. It was a split backfield again, 13 and 15 carries between Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. Difference being Kenneth Walker had 105 yards. This is a team, to me, that is going to just lean into the run rest of season. You've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. Cooper Kupp had a nice day, but you've got to worry about putting the ball in Sam Darnold's hands too often to make decisions.
Yeah, Charbonnet still out-snapped, out-routed Ken Walker. Ken Walker was a lot more efficient, obviously.
Yep.
Still got the touchdown over 100 yards. So I think Charbonnet's still going to get involved here. It was just Charbonnet's usually the efficient one between the two, and usually you see Ken Walker kind of lag behind in the efficiency. So that was something to see there. Clearly, they still prefer Charbonnet in a lot of situations, and where Ken Walker could be I hate to say it because I think he's better than him, but what the Bears were doing with Jordan Howard back in the day, where when he was on the field, it was almost obviously a run play. So it feels kind of like that, where Charbonnet is obviously more multifaceted, pass pro and everything like that, especially in the receiving game. But that backfield is those two. And that's the problem with Seattle, is that even I wasn't drafting too much JSN anyway, just because I had major concerns about the offense just in general, starting with the offensive line. I know they brought in our boy Gray Zabel. But still, I mean, one offensive lineman does not fix the entire line. You still got 4 spots you got to figure out there. So,
Right.
I think the offense is going to be below average. And certainly Sam Darnold's a below average quarterback, despite what we saw with Kevin O'Connell magic last season in Minnesota. And then going over to the Pittsburgh side, we saw a lot, we saw the kind of shootout that happened overnight between them and the Jets last week. And DK Metcalf, 3 for 20 and a touchdown, the only touchdown there today. Jalen Warren led the way in the receiving game, 4 for 86. The passing game wasn't really doing anything. Calvin Austin only had 1 for 22. Still good to see him run 90% of routes, though. So you know that's going to be, that wasn't a 1 week thing. Calvin Austin's going to be out there a ton with DK Metcalf. So you can kind of play him as like a routes based upside guy and like better matchups. So totally fine with the Calvin Austin play. Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith are going to cannibalize each other. Freiermuth had the slight edge on routes, 61.5% to Jonnu Smith's 59%. Over to the run game, the Kenneth Gainwell stuff, while he did get routes and snaps, definitely a lot of the stuff dried up. He had 5 targets, 3 for 16, 5 carries for 20 yards, but Jalen Warren led the way there. So we're looking at 134 total yards for Jalen Warren. So he's I mean, that was kind of a 1 week thing and a 1 week kind of overreaction on the Kenneth Gainwell stuff. Caleb Johnson, that doghouse that he's in, by the way, we thought James Cook and Brandon Ayuk's doghouse was, big. That dude's living in like Bezos' house, if that was a doghouse.
This is like Kendre Miller, Dennis Allen just doesn't like you, doghouse. Like, I don't know what he did. I don't know.
One of the worst plays I've ever seen in that kickoff. One of the worst plays I've ever seen in my life.
All right, fair. But man, that dude, 1 carry for 1 yard.
Yeah, and that special team stuff took him completely off the field. That's what Mike Tomlin does. Tomlin will just yank you, and you are in the shadow realm. Like,
we've seen it before. It happened to Roman Wilson last season, and we still don't know why. Yeah, it's a Tomlin thing, and he's been doing it for 20 years. It's a bummer. Does Caleb Johnson eventually get involved in this offense, though, at some point, Kevin?
I mean, you would have to think so, but right now we're operating on Jalen Warren takes a lot of, obviously the passing down stuff and some of the early down stuff with Kenneth Gainwell. Gainwell's probably going to get phased out at some point. So you can kind of maybe, once Caleb Johnson gets a handful of carries, I think you'll be able to figure out when you can trust him, like after a week, when he starts getting ramped up a little more. But right now, like, I don't blame you for like even wanting to drop him, but he's got to be, I mean, because we're right now getting into week 3 where we start to know what guys are. You're either 0-2, 2-1, or 0-2, 2-0, or 1-1, and you gotta, if you're 0-2, you're holding Caleb Johnson. It's not really doing a lot for you. Where
time to go.
You're gonna have to figure out some kind of production. You got him stashed away. You got to make some kind of move. But yeah, I mean, if you can hold Caleb Johnson, I'm holding him. If not, I don't blame you one bit, because it's probably going to be a multi-week thing to kind of get out of the doghouse. It's not going to be like a 1 week thing, I don't think.
No, well, it never is in these situations. How are you feeling about Pat Freiermuth at this point? I mean, 3 targets, 31 yards.
Nothing
exceptional.
I don't. This is one tight end role split between 2 guys. I know both guys are like fine as far as players, and in other situations. Obviously, we saw it with Jonnu Smith last year. Freiermuth had some usage last season with Russ Wilson and Fields, but at this rate, you can't start either because they're not getting enough routes for you to have the upside to start them, for them to get with. I mean, you're hoping you get a touchdown out of them. I'm not starting either. I'm not rostering either.
I wouldn't either. I just recently moved off of my last share of Pat Freiermuth. It's Arthur Smith, right? And we know what he does, and he's doing it, and blah, 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 blah. You can't trust the tight ends in this system as much as you want to.
Right. Let's go over to the Rams and the Titans. This was the Survivor alarm bells ringing because the Rams were having some problems with the Titans into the third quarter, but the Rams prevailed 33-19. Puka Nacua is a grown-ass man, had a 45-yard rushing touchdown on top of 8 of 91. If you wanted to say he's the best wide receiver in the NFL, I wouldn't even slight you on that because he plays like it. He's the most efficient wide receiver in football. Davante Adams led the way, though, with 12 targets, 6 for 106, and a touchdown, 156 air yards for Mr. Davante Adams. This is the thesis of the play for the Rams, where you were hoping it was going to be the top 2 wide receivers and everybody else, and that's exactly what happened today. Both Puka Nacua and Davante Adams combined for over 65% of the team's targets in their win against the Titans. So we're not touching, Tyler Higbee, 4 for 37. There's none of the ancillary guys. I think we can kind of leave the Rams passing game there. And then the Rams running game is status quo. Blake Corum got a touchdown, which I hated to see. As the one time I texted you, the one time I started Kyren Williams in DFS.
Yes.
But
of course.
And it's
go figure.
And it's status quo. 68% of the rushing attempts for Kyren Williams. Is there anything to add with the Rams? Are you gonna hop over to the Titans side? I mean, it's pretty simple here.
This is exactly what we talked about. A super condensed offense. It's Sean McVay. Yeah, let's move on. We can talk about the Titans. A little bit more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Titans because Cam Ward looked a little better this week than last week. I mean, you don't have to play the Denver Broncos in Denver every game, thank God. But, Calvin Ridley, all right, I guess, 3 for 57. But Alec Aomanor, I can't even say his name, Aomanor. Us fantasy analysts are going through the ringer on having to pronounce these names, I swear. Especially with his. I think it's Aomanor.
It's Aomanor.
Okay. 4 for 56 and a touchdown, 6 targets. One of those catches, by the way, probably a catch of the day. If you haven't, go search that out on your social media platform of choice because it was excellent. Led the team 76 air yards, 68% of routes. Took a little bit of a dip this week compared to last week. For some reason, they want to get guys like Van Jefferson on the field, Tyler Lockett for reasons unbeknownst to me. Chigakonkwo, 6 targets as well, 4 for 35. Solid 76% of the routes. So it looks like it's Ridley, Iomanor, Okonkwo. Slightly condensed, but those Lockets and the Van Jeffersons are always going to be involved, which stinks. And it's an offense in progress, but I'm solidly into Iomanor as a guy that's maybe going to start taking a little bit off the top of Ridley, and maybe he'll be the wide receiver 1B to Ridley's 1A later on in the season.
Well, it's only up for Elick. I mean, I think there were some of us that saw this coming. It made sense with the rookie quarterback. You've got this rookie wide receiver who's incredibly talented, and you got a really good deal on him in the draft. He went later than he probably should have. Yep. Then you've got Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett in this offense, and you're wondering, well, what are we going to do here? Well, you're going to let the young kid throw to the young kid. You've got these nice veteran pieces. They're going to get used. They're going to see their targets. But I think by week 6, week 7, Elick Aomanor is going to be the 1A to Calvin Ridley's 1B in this offense. We're already starting to see it. There's a rapport between him and Cam Ward. They like each other. They trust each other. They understand what they're doing on the field together. That cross-body touchdown that Cam Ward threw, that was incredible. But it was also, he threw it on trust, knowing where Aomanor was and knowing he could get him the ball. Those are the kinds of things that help rookie quarterbacks just get better throughout a season. I have a lot of shares of Aomanor in Dynasty. I wish I had more of him in redraft, especially with the draft capital. But he's a guy now, if he's available in your league, I'm going to grab him. There is a lot of value to be had here. And he's a guy you can get at a price where you're rolling him out as a flex.
Yeah, if for some reason he's not added in your leagues, like he was a guy that was kind of fell through the cracks a little
Yep.
bit because he didn't really pop in the box score. But now that he got 56 yards and a touchdown, is the clear second wide receiver right now in Tennessee. I know it's not a sexy offense, but the offense is going to get better. And I feel like with Lockett and Jefferson, those guys are going to fall off a little bit more. Lockett's a pure slot guy. Like Van
Yep.
Jefferson is just a rotational outside receiver that's coming in for Aomenor, and they use Kamir DK as a gadgety guy. He had two rushing attempts today for 9 yards. But yeah, other than that, it's a 2-man wide receiver group here, and then you could throw Chig in there to be kind of the third there. And then in the backfield, I mean, Tony Pollard, 77% of the rushing attempts, 20 for 92. Don't have to worry about that. DK had 2 rushes, and I believe Cam Ward had a couple as well. So pretty clear cut there. Obviously, no Tajay Spears. So it's Julius Chestnut was the one that was backing him up and saw like barely any time on the field. So other than that, let's go over to Buffalo and the Jets, and let's start off with the Buffalo Bills, who 30-10 over the Jets. Jets look terrible, by the way. That was the other side of the coin there for the New York Football Jets. With the Bills, though, I mean, I believe Josh Allen, did he break his nose, or at least he almost broke his nose? Was it a full
all we
break?
know it was profusely bleeding. We don't know for sure if he broke it. I'm sure he had to have at least fractured it, right?
The true test of he deviated his septum at best. The true test to a marriage for Haley Steinfeld, is going to having to see him walk home and looking like Owen Wilson. So, good luck with that.
Oh man.
But not great for the passing game. Dalton Kincaid led the way, 6 targets, 4 for 37. Elijah Moore had the touchdown on a single catch for 31 yards. Khalil Shakir had 1 target, 1 for 12. Keon Coleman, who had a great game last week, 3 for 26. We saw some route consolidation as well because Josh Palmer led the way, 66% of the routes. And that's the thing with this Buffalo Bills offense, is that you can't trust a lot of these guys because they have so many guys. It's hard to trust 1 or 2 of these guys. And I think we were all impressed by, Keon Coleman and what he did in that week. And we were hoping that's something he could build off of. The fact that they scored 30 points and then you really only put up 3 for 26, I think him and Khalil Shakir right back into that volatile wide receiver 3 range. Even though they're going to score a lot of points, we just know that there's too many hands in the cookie jar here.
Well, and that's something that we talked about again before the season. We're seeing play out as we get into week 2, because last week, I was convinced Keon Coleman's the wide receiver 1 in this offense. He's going to get the lion's share of the volume. Look what he did with what he had last week. We're back down to earth here with this offense. It's going to be very spread out. It's going to be hard to trust any of these guys. This morning we're setting lineups and Jen's like, I don't think I trust Josh Palmer. It's like, he's a Bills receiver.
When could you?
When could you? And that's where I'm at with this Bills offense. You look at it, and outside of James Cook, 21 carries for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns.
You can trust him.
You can trust him, but nothing else stood out. Like you were saying, Keon Coleman, 3 catches. We got Elijah Moore with a catch. We got Dalton Kincaid with 4. Josh Palmer with 2. Dawson Knox got 2. Khalil Shakir gets 1. Then you mix in, you've got Jackson Hawes with a catch. You've got Ty Johnson and Tyrell Shavers both getting targets. It's unpredictable. What you know for sure in this Buffalo offense is you're going to get James Cook and you're going to get Josh Allen. Outside of that, it's hard to tell every week.
Yeah, the only sure thing from last season was Khalil Shakir. And then even that, because you have all the guys, it's still hit or miss there. But as Lou said, exactly, everybody eats. That is the Buffalo Bills offense for sure. 21-32 for 2 touchdowns, almost 50% of the team rushing attempts for James Cook. He is very well managed as far as his snaps and his routes, but when he is on the field, he's one of the most efficient running backs in the league. So no questions there. We are starting James Cook and maybe Khalil Shakir or Keon Coleman, depending on how your roster lays, but who are not starting, most of the Jets, besides, I guess, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson led the way, 7 targets, 4 for 50. If you thought that was that's an eye-popping number compared to the rest of the team, because the next highest receiving line was 2 for 9 for Breece Hall. Because Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor, good luck with that. That's the bad side of Fields that we got today. But and then even the running game, like 10 for 29, Braylon Allen 2 for 11, like just a bad day at the office. But I'm not totally downgrading Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall here. I think it was just a bad day. This is like the bottom of the range of outcomes, I think, for the Jets in a game against the Bills where they look pretty overmatched.
Well, yeah, I'm not super panicked. I mean, Justin Fields ended up getting hurt. This is a division rival that is clearly nobody's confusing the Jets for the Baltimore Ravens, right? Like, we know what this team is. No one thought that the Jets had a shot at winning this game. I thought they were going to stay in it a little bit more. I thought Justin Fields was going to look at least a little bit better than he looked. He didn't, but like you're saying, this is the bottom range of outcomes for this team. Breece Hall, 10 carries for 29 yards, 2.9 yards per carry. We're not going to see that very often this season. Nothing about this scared me off of the Jets assets I'm excited about playing. Probably going to be a little bit more cautious with Justin Fields depending on matchups as we move forward. This is not his QB7 season in Chicago, as I think we just learned this week. That said, he's still viable to me.
There's still 15 weeks of the season, buddy.
Yeah, I know, but it's also a reminder that, hey, guys, back down to earth, this is still the Jets.
Progress, yep.
Yep, it's still a work in progress. It's still the New York Jets. And that's okay. I still look at him as he's going to be a consistent back-end QB2. So if you've got him in Superflex, you're probably still okay to start him most weeks. This was a rough week for the Jets. I'm not going to be super worried about the high-end assets here.
Yeah, this is a week where, like, because if you drafted Justin Fields as your lone quarterback, you're probably hating life and trying to seek out something on the waiver wire. Mm-hmm. Fields is like the perfect guy that you pair with somebody. Like, I paired him with Drake May and started May today. Obviously we'll talk about that, but sure. That's what you're doing with the Fields. Like, you can't be super overconfident, especially with the receiving options, like, so barren. Like, right now, Tyler Johnson was getting 97% of the routes today as a slot receiver. That's where we're at with the New York Jets right now, aside from Garrett Wilson. I think Josh Reynolds was out. They gave rookie Arian Smith 61% of the routes as well. So This is very much a work in progress. Alan Lazard was out there running cardio for 33% of routes. I mean, that's where we're at.
State mandated workouts, man. He's got to get that cardio in. His Fitbit starts barking at him if he doesn't. So it's like, hey, coach, put me in. I know.
Good Lord.
Good Lord.
As a noted Alan Lazard hater who will be having an Al Lazard truther on clock management tomorrow, Dave Kluge. That will be a fun conversation, I'm sure.
You guys are going to have a blast.
Going back to the well with Al, because we had Alan Lazard wars back in the day. Where
I remember.
Yeah, those were the days. Those are the fun days.
Those were the fun days.
They really were. And these are fun days too. We get to talk about football at 10 o'clock Central. Like, what's better?
Damn straight.
Let's go over to the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins. Patriots went 33-27. I thought that game was going to be, we all started writing the obituary for the Miami Dolphins. I don't think they're dead quite yet, but they're 0-2 right now. But we'll start with the Patriots side because there is some a bit intriguing side here. I mean, it stinks for kind of the passing game. Kayshon Boutte salvaged his day with a touchdown. Only one target, 1 for 16, which is awful. After such a good outing in week 1, leading the way in the passing game. If you had this on your bingo card, good luck. 5 for 88, Ramondre Stevenson. The Trevion Henderson bros are down. Myself being one of them for sure. Stephon Diggs 4 for 32 out of 5 targets. More route consolidation here. Stephon Diggs only ran like 58% of the routes. Kayshon Boutte was out there for 74, led the team. But other than that, this is going to be like a committee where you've got a bunch of like spare parts here. You got your Mac Hollins. He scored a touchdown as well. Demario Douglas is your slot receiver. They tried to work in a little bit with Kyle Williams. Booty is going to be out there. That probably like makes him like a very low end start at this point. And Diggs is probably right there with him. Even Hunter Henry doesn't feel like such a great start. I mean, 1 for 9 on 3 targets, still ran 71% of the routes. That's great. But Drake May was pretty awesome today. So look, the whole is greater than the sum of their parts with the Patriots. And then going over to the running game, Ramondre Stevenson got a lot more run. So I don't think he's quite dead yet. He got more routes, he got more snaps than Trevion Henderson. Henderson, even though we steamed him up big time and probably think that he deserves more time on the field, right now he's a dicey flex option until we actually see it.
I'm not even willing to flex Henderson at this point. I don't think there's going to be the volume there. This is very much a team that's trying to figure out its identity, right? We're coming off of a year of Jared Mayo as head coach. Now we're in the Mike Vrabel system, which is a shift from what Mayo was trying to do. He was trying to get away from the Belichick way of doing things, and we're right back into the Belichick system. So I think it's going to take time for a guy like Trevion Henderson to figure things out, but I think that's also going to be kind of what it is in the passing game. We're not going to know week to week who is going to be the player that they're going to target, if there's going to be one that they're even going to hyper target from week to week. Looked like Kayshon Boutte might be that guy, but now what? He had the one catch for 16 yards, and it's again hard to tell who it's going to be. This is very much like the Buffalo receiving core for me. I'm just kind of out on it at this point, unless you're looking for an emergency flex play in Kayshon Boutte, maybe pop Douglas and pray he gets a touchdown. But outside of that, even Hunter Henry, I'm not sure that I'm super interested in keeping him rostered. I think I'd rather stream tight ends week to week.
Yeah, you hit it there with like being like the Bills, but obviously it's worse than the Bills. Like
much worse.
There's no consistency there. I mean, you've got Drake May, he's still kind of growing in his role. I mean, he had a rushing touchdown and then 230 yards plus 2 passing touchdowns. Like that's a pretty good day for Drake May. It's sure. Like I said, it's the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. But like the Henderson play is all about efficiency more than like volume, but the fact that he's still like where it was pretty bullish to see him get a bunch of receptions last week, for him to kind of scale back the role this week is a bit concerning. Antonio Gibson runs back. By the way, the best part of that game was the dueling return touchdowns. The one from Malik Washington, and then the one from Antonio Gibson on the kickoff. Like that, for the fact that we like don't see any kickoff returns or any return touchdowns anymore in the NFL. We got 2 in 2 consecutive plays, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. You love it.
Yeah, that's big football bros here. But in terms of fantasy viability, Ramondre is probably your bet is like a low end RB2, high end RB3 that you can flex. But Trevion, do not drop him. He is a hold for sure because he's gonna get more work. He's too efficient not to. The Patriots, Josh McDaniels will see the error of his ways in only giving Trevion Henderson 5 touches today.
Yep.
Yeah. Over to the Miami side now. We got some like vintage Miami stuff with Tyreek Hill, 6'109. Nice to see. Jalen Waddle stayed out of the tent for the most part, 5 for 68 and a touchdown. Devon Achane, 10 targets, 8 for 92 and a touchdown. Didn't do much on the ground, 11 for 30, sub 3 yards per carry. But, if you're going to get 23 points in receiving, like who cares at that point? Like,
no,
that was the thesis. If you can get some stuff on the ground with Achane and then you could pull out 10 targets, something like that, like you're looking at like prime Kamara stuff right here. And that's the thesis of the play with Achane.
Well, that's what we all thought we were getting from him. And last week was concerning. It's good to see this offense rebound, not look like absolute like trash last place college football team that they looked like last week. it was encouraging. I mean, Tua 26 of 32 for 315. He did have the interception, but he also threw 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Way better than we got out of him last week. A-Chain looked good. You don't love the 11 carries for 30, but you really do love the 8 catches for 92 and the touchdown. It's a give and take with this offense. Maybe they're going to grow a little bit as the season goes, even though there wasn't a whole lot of personnel change. Maybe Mike McDaniels doesn't lose his job at some point in the next 4 to 5 weeks if they can keep this up. Not that they're going to be good, but A-Chain is definitely fantasy viable in this offense. Yeah. Maybe Tua is creeping into a point where he could be a viable QB2 over the next couple of weeks. Maybe this offense just gets better. Maybe last week was an aberration and Indy really is that good.
I mean, Indy's pretty good. We'll talk about them certainly, but yeah.
Of course.
A-Chan, you're drafting in the middle of second round. I mean, he's got 100 target upside. He could probably catch 100 balls, this season. Given if this is going to be the way where they're going to be so inefficient on the ground and have to kind of make up for it in the passing game, that's going to be awesome for A-Chan. You're gonna get running back 3-4 overall numbers, almost sold kind of like an Eckler play, like the Eckler play, sure, where maybe he's going to get 700, 800, 100 yards on the ground. You got 17 games. That's not a lot of rushing yards per game to get that, but you're also going to get 110, 120 targets. And because running back, as far as, high catch rate guys, usually see running backs because it's so close to the line of scrimmage. You're going to see 90% plus catch rates on these guys. 120 targets is 108 catches. If you get that, that's that blows Eckler's season out of the water.
Yeah, no, I love A-Chain. I love what he can be in this offense as long as it's functioning and as long as Tua is playing at least half decently. He's completely viable as a pass catching back.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go. I mean, we talked about the running game there, so let's go over to the next game here. Cincinnati and Jacksonville had the highest over-under of the slate. Cincinnati wins 31-27. Burrow leaves the game with turf toe, likely out several weeks here. So that's going to be tough for anybody that had him. Going to have to go look for a quarterback. Yeah. Jake Browning came in. And, I've said Jake Browning, I think, is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. But Jamar Chase, blow-up spot here, 14 for 165 and a touchdown. T. Higgins kind of lagged behind a little bit, but still 9 targets, 3 for 56 and a touchdown. So lack of efficiency, but you still ended up kind of getting there with 13, 14 points, 14.6 points, I should say, in full PPR. Mitchell Tinsley, I think, is finally going to start putting Andre Yoshivas on the all-exercise watch list. He might be on a milk carton pretty soon. You're not starting any of the other, the tight ends, even Mike Gesicki, you can't start at this point because, between him and Noah Fant, we know it's a tight end rotation there between those two and Drew Sample. And God, imagine if Eric All was not hurt. It'll probably be a 4-way gross split again, like it was last season. But other than that, obviously you're not doing anything with Chase and Higgins. You're starting them no matter what. Over the run game though, Chase Brown, 94% of the rushing attempts, not the greatest of days. I believe it was sub 3 yards per carry again, 16 for 47. But he's the only game in town. The only other running, rushing attempt was from Jake Browning. So, Chase Brown's got a role there. I mean, not too much to talk about. It's pretty status quo for the Bengals.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from this was Jamar Chase is going to be fine without Joe Burrow. I'm not worried about him. I feel like we're going to see Jake Browning for the next 8 to 10 weeks. Turf Toe's no joke. Yeah. Terrible name for a really
does not do it justice.
It does not do it justice. Jamar Chase is going to be fine. I think we're going to see an uptick in Chase Brown's volume, though. Wouldn't you expect that with Browning at quarterback? They can't keep throwing like they do with Burrow, with Browning. I would expect Chase Brown to be north of 20 carries a game moving forward.
Yeah, you could probably put that in pretty good there. But, obviously the receiving game guys are not going away. T. Higgins is probably downgraded to a, high-end wide receiver 3. You're not downgrading Jamar Chase by any means. But yeah, you're probably going to try to hide Browning a little bit. he had a pretty good stretch. Those like few games that he had was at the end of 2023,
Yeah.
where he was like solidly viable in fantasy. So that's that's like the bull case. That's what you're hoping for. You're going to be looking out on the waiver wire if you had Burrow for like guys like Daniel Jones and even Trevor Lawrence, who we're going to talk about here, who I'm not, the first two games for Trevor Lawrence, at least in this offense, haven't been like super great. But there are quarterbacks out there. Certainly Drake May, hopefully, God willing, is out there on your waiver wire to go pick up. I think he's a smash if you have Burrow and he's out there for whatever reason. But we'll talk about the Jaguars on the other side here. Some inefficiency, like Trevor Lawrence. I think we have to start really asking the tough questions with Trevor Lawrence here, because no better offensive situation than he's had in his career than he has right now with Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter. Travis Etienne was solid, last week, and solid this week too. Had a touchdown through the air, as did Bashal Tootin. Toot. Need a train whistle for that. I used to have one. I might still have one. I'm gonna have to dig that out. But still, it's Travis Etienne's backfield. 63% of the routes, 68% of the snaps, 52% of the rushing attempts for the team. But Tootin, look, 8 for 42, 2 for 32 on the ground through the air and a touchdown. Like, he's a priority handcuff now, and if for some reason he's not out, or he's out there on your waiver wire, he's a priority ad right now.
Are you sure he's a handcuff though? I think with that 10 in this offense, I think he can operate independently. He kind of did today.
I mean, when I say handcuff, I mean contingent. He has like massive contingent value. Like, I think he's got some standalone value for sure. But like,
back end flex. But yeah,
I mean, in terms of like the traditional meaning of handcuff, where you're, because the meaning contingent value, he has that.
Sure.
In spades. He is one of the best, and I look at like guys like Tyler Algier, DJ Giddens, guys who, if something happens to the back ahead of them, I think they're, high end running back twos. And I think Bashal Tootin is, showed a lot of the efficiency that we saw, 10 touches, 74 yards, a touchdown. That's enough standalone value for me, where I started him in the manager league today because I had to. And, I almost feel bad for the person I played today, because that's points they probably shouldn't have had to worry about. But it is what it is. So, but yeah,
that's fantasy.
It is fantasy. It's still ETN's backfield for the most part. Tootin's just going to have pretty. Yeah. I would say it's independent to a point, but because 16% of the routes, 26% of the snaps, like, that's not great. You're just when he's out there, he's getting targeted. When he's out there, he's getting the touch. Like, it's easy to read as a defense. You've got your package of plays for a guy like that. And Quinn Allen was still kind of out there too. We did talk about Caleb Johnson earlier, but I would say if you can drop him, if you are good enough at running back where you don't have to worry about, the repercussions of later in the season, I'm totally fine dropping Caleb Johnson.
Yep. Yeet him into the waiver, son, Jacob. That's what we're saying right now.
Yeah. But yeah, as far for the passing game, like, there's questions there with Brian Thomas's efficiency, like 4 for 49. It's great. Obviously, it's great that they're targeting him. Travis Hunter was out there a little less on offense today. I believe he got his defensive snaps ramped up a little bit too. 63% of the routes today, 3 for 23. It's getting to the point where you're probably having to make decisions on even starting Travis Hunter, at least right now. You want to see more efficiency out of this offense before you go ahead and start him. And it sucks because we know he's one of the most talented players in the league, but you're also kind of pigeonholing him into right now 5.5 yard ADOT. He's like a short, real managed touch guy. He's going to get some design stuff, but it's not a great situation right now, especially when you have a guy like De'Ami Brown, 5 for 57 and a touchdown on 7 targets. Like, he almost feels a little more utilized than Hunter right now.
Yeah, it's I don't know what to make of Jacksonville. Like, I honestly just don't know what to make of this team. We know Etienne's going to get what he's going to get. I don't trust Trevor Lawrence. I'm kind of just staying away from all of them in fantasy if I can. There just isn't enough, I guess, is the best way to put it. I do want to get something real quick, Kevin. If you are in our chat and you are throwing some questions in there, we are going to try and get to all of them at some point here. We're just kind of on a vibe rolling through this here, trying to recap the day. But if we don't get to your questions, folks, hop over to our Discord channel. We have all of the deets in the show description. Redraft, Dynasty, DFS, NFL Best Bets. We've got it all over there. So again, if we don't get to your question here, we can definitely get to it on Discord. So hop on over. Kevin and I are there too. We're happy to answer. Kevin, let's get back to it here.
Yeah, let's go to the next game here. San Francisco and New Orleans.
Yes.
A quarterback that I'm sure the Jacksonville Jaguars would love to have right now, Mac Jones. Looked pretty good today with a depleted, I would say, 49ers offense doesn't have no George Kittle.
Right.
You're staring down the barrel of having Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, CMC, like totally fine. Juwan Jennings had a pretty good game though, 5 for 89, the touchdown, up to 91% of the route. So that's what you like to see there. Led the way in targets. Ricky Pearsall, middling game there, 456 on 6 targets, but also on 93% of the routes. The tight ends outside of Kittle, nothing real. Jake Tongas ran 72% of the routes, but you're not starting any of those guys. I would say, if anything, Tongas is like a DFS punt play. If anything, you're not touching him in redraft. CMC 6 for 52 and a touchdown, 13 for 55 on the ground. Brian Robinson, a whole new vibe wearing the number 3. I would say certainly, but 6 for 20 as like the pure backup for the Niners. But look at the top of the target tree right now. They also dusted off Kendrick Bourne, by the way, to get 61% of the routes. Kendrick Bourne, former 49er from 2021.
It's so long ago.
Like, how do you feel? Because I feel pretty good about Juwan Jennings right now, seeing him just get right in there and get involved. 5 for 89, a touchdown, leading the way in targets. Like, I know it's Mac Jones, and he's going to be the quarterback for the next few games with Brock Purdy's shoulder and toe, whatever, his injury, that combined things, that certainly sucks. But I'm feeling good about Juwan Jennings. And I think I'm feeling better about him than I am about Pearsall.
With Mac Jones at quarterback, yes, I think I feel better about Jennings. I was never that down on Jennings. It was mostly of a health thing for me. But seeing him come out today, like you said, he had the 5 for 89. He had the touchdown. He had 10 targets. He's obviously just rolled right back into his previous role. He's fantasy viable for me. And with Mac Jones at quarterback, I think he's more viable than Pearsall. I mean, again, 4 for 56. He didn't get the touchdown. He only had 6 targets. I think that this offense is going to shift to Juwan Jennings for now, if it's going to be Mac Jones at quarterback, which is fine. He's highly rostered. A lot of you probably have him on your roster. You just now can start him with a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, I think Pearsall's fine as a wide receiver 3 play. I do think Juwan Jennings is like a high-end wide receiver 3 play where I feel, and I feel much better about starting Jennings there, especially with Mac. We know Mac Jones. Mac Jones supported the Brian Thomas breakout at the end of the season last season. So, I'm totally fine with this as far as, there's going to be some passing volume there. Like Christian McCaffrey is totally fine. It's he's not what he once was, but he's going to get a ton of the work and, he's mildly efficient. That's where we're at with CMC right now. I mean, the quietest 22.7 fantasy points, I think, we've seen from Christian McCaffrey, and we'll take that every time as RB5 before the Sunday Night Football game. But, other than that, I don't really have much for the 49ers, but let's go over to the Saints where, pretty condensed there. I mean, we saw Chris Olave, 10 targets, 6 for 54, 120 air yards, full route participation, 100%. Juwan Johnson, I should say, because he did talk about San Francisco. It's easy to mix those guys up. Juwan Johnson, 9 targets for 5 for 49 and a touchdown. So I think he's getting into, I don't want to say must start tight end because tight end, stuff is pretty slim pickings. once you get out of like the top 5 or 6. But I think Juwan Johnson is right in there now. I think even with Spencer Rattler, who we saw him last season, he still has not won a game as a starting quarterback. I think he's 0-8 now. But look, if he can support Juwan Johnson and support Chris Olave, at least with some target volume, it's a lot better than what we thought was going to be the Saints offense, leading into training camp and into the season.
We say this time and time again. I don't care how good the real football team is if their assets are going to work in fantasy. Spencer Rattler's not a guy I'm going to roll out and start. I mean, he had a good week, 25 of 34, 207 and 3 touchdowns, didn't throw a pick, but what I know he's going to do is he's going to feed Chris Olave. He's going to feed Juwan Johnson, and we're going to see plenty of Alvin Kamara in this offense, making all three of them very fantasy viable for me. Not a team I believe in. Don't believe in the quarterback. Only sort of believe in Kellen Moore as the head coach. Don't super love it. But I know Juwan Johnson's going to see his. Chris Olave is going to see his. Alvin Kamara is going to see his. They don't even have to win. But we know that Juwan Johnson's going to see 8 to 12 targets a game. And at tight end, that kind of volume, that puts him in play to be a top 5 tight end every single week.
Yeah, the Saints don't have to win. Well, I got news for you, buddy. They're not going to be winning much. So no worries there. But we know Kellen Moore runs a faster paced offense, so that's going to be a good thing for play volume. That's going to be a good thing for target volume, just to accumulate here in this offense. And this is an offense that's going to be, it's still a professional football offense. Like, it's still an NFL offense that's going to be, Chris Olave and any other situation. We're talking about him as a wide receiver too. Juwan Johnson, if he were like on the Chiefs, he'd be their best receiver, like at this point. But yeah, and Alvin Kamara, 70% of the team rushing attempts, 21 for 99 on the ground, and then adding 6 targets, 6 catches, 21 yards. That's like a typical Alvin Kamara game. Totally happy with that. Other than that, I think we can move on to Baltimore and Cleveland. Baltimore did roll up on the Browns, the former Cleveland Browns, rolling up on the current Cleveland Browns, 41-17. Zay Flowers, 7 for 75. The touchdowns are all over the place, and not to Zay Flowers, though. 1 for Hopkins, 1 for Tylan Wallace, 2 for Devontae Walker. So Lamar Jackson was in his bag a little bit. Would have been nice to get one to Zay Flowers, but that's totally fine. I wrote about Zay Flowers, last week, and saying that I think that we're starting to see more of the incremental breakout, where he's always been efficient over a 2 yards per out run player. But now in this specific environment with Lamar Jackson, because obviously he is so efficient throwing the ball, they're going to score a ton of points. And then given the makeup of the rest of the wide receivers around him that are not right now target dominant, like Mark Andrews is not a target dominant player. DeAndre Hopkins is running 21% of the routes. He's clearly not, prime Hopkins by any stretch. Rashad Bateman is not a target dominant guy. They really don't have that. The only player on this offense that can earn targets is Zay Flowers. And because of that, I think we're starting to see the incremental breakout now, where I think we have to start thinking about Zay Flowers in line with the Marvin, even higher than that. I would say probably as like a second round. Like if we're going to redraft, I think I'd probably take him at the 2-3 turn now with like guys like JSN and Devontae Adams and those guys.
I have a hard time with that because we said the same thing about Hollywood Brown many times when he was in Baltimore, and it never materialized because it was never consistent. John Harbaugh's not going to run an offense that's going to do something that we ever expect unless it's give Derrick Henry the ball and run it down people's throats. That is the extent of what we know they're going to do. Week to week, it concerns me. Yeah, we've had 2 good Zay Flowers weeks, but is next week going to be a Zay Flowers week, or is it going to be a Mark Andrews week? Is it going to be a Rashad Bateman week? Or is it going to be a Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson just keep it on the ground? I get what you're saying about Zay Flowers, and I love the talent. I loved him coming out of BC. He was one of my favorite prospects. I was excited when he got drafted by Baltimore because we had Todd Monken coming in, and the thought was, well, shit, This was Jameis Winston's 5,030 offensive coordinator. What insane crap are we going to get out of this Baltimore offense? Smartly, Monken kept it on the ground because it's what this team's identity is and it's what they're good at. It just makes me nervous for Zay Flowers because I can't, in my heart of hearts, I can't guarantee myself that he's going to see enough volume every week to be fantasy relevant. These 2 weeks have been great, but what if we get to next week and he sees 4 targets, 1 catch for 5 yards, doesn't get a touchdown?
I don't think that's where I think we're past that point. I think
you think we're past that?
I think we're well past, given the state of this offense and how they have literally no Mark Andrews ain't walking into eight targets, 8 for 64. Like that ain't happening. And I don't think that's on the table anymore for Mark Andrews. Even, without Isaiah Likely, right now they're rolling out, Rashad Bateman, Tyler Wallace. Like, I don't think that any of these guys are going to be earning targets. And I think Zay Flowers' role as like a crossing guy in the intermediate part of the field in between the 20s, and then as a guy that can just build up yak. I think this offense is now tailored for a guy like Lamar Jackson to hyper target a guy like this. We're starting to see, him, he put 2 good games together, and, we've seen incremental breakouts from yards per target with Zay Flowers. We've started to see with that, like with yards per out run. Touchdowns is like the last kind of bastion of Zay Flowers really hasn't tapped this into. But if the targets come and we see maybe him get 140, 150 targets, it may not matter as much if he's still catching 5 touchdowns.
Sure.
That's the great thing about it, is that Zay Flowers does everything else right now. He's in a great offense. He's in an offense that's going to be efficient. Offense going to score a lot of points. The touchdowns are just the fluky part of the deal where it's almost not going to matter, whether, I don't care if Devontae Walker scores 2 touchdowns. If they're going to score enough where Flowers is going to get 6 to 8 and then add 90 catches and 1,200 yards, you're looking at wide receiver 7.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I just worry that he's not even going to see that volume some weeks. But I think you might be right that we're past that point with this offense. They wanted Rashad Bateman to be this guy. They tried to get Rashad Bateman to be this guy. Obviously, Rashad Bateman's not going to be this guy. And maybe that's where I'm a little bit stuck, because I thought Rashad Bateman was going to be Zay Flowers, and, well, he's Rashad Bateman.
Turns out Zay Flowers was Zay Flowers the whole time.
He was the entire... Knives Out 5.
Oh, man.
Just wait.
But they want to give Derrick Henry the ball, but maybe they didn't want to do it as much today because 11 for 23 on the ground for Derrick Henry. Not a great rushing game for the old Baltimore Ravens there. Obviously his role is as secure as anybody's. Bad day at the office. They didn't need the running game as much as they've needed it in previous games.
And that's a big thing, yeah.
Yeah, that is what it is, and that'll get better too, and that's only going to help the passing game too. Over to the Cleveland side, Cedric Tillman. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than be good. I don't know if you saw the touchdown he scored today.
I missed it.
It went off a defender and bounced into his hands at the pylon for the touchdown. 2 for 22 on 7 targets. Jerry Jeudy 4 for 51 on 8 targets. Our favorite duck-footed tight end Harold Fannin 5 for 48 on 5 targets. It wasn't a great day for the Cleveland Browns. Quinshon Judkins though steps into, and he could be suspended as well. This is something that they're still working into the investigation on that, and we could get news at any point here. But 10 for 61 on the ground. I was surprised to see him get 10 carries and 3 targets to get 13 touches to lead the Browns running backs. I mean, Jerome Ford had 12, Dylan Sampson had 7. So it's still a gross split where I don't really want to start anybody, but for the fact that if that offense consolidates just even a little bit, I'll be more into like a guy like Judkins. But that's the fly in the ointment because the hammer's going to come down at any point. But Dylan Sampson he feels very J.D. McKissick, or like even like Rashad White. That dude should not be rushing the ball at any point, but let him run in the flat. Let him run a couple swing passes and let him get some fantasy value there, because for Sampson, it ain't happening on the ground.
It's not happening for him on the ground. He didn't look great last week, but then he looked even worse this week when he had 4 carries for 6 yards, 1.5 yards per carry versus Judkins 6.1.
Not great,
But
Bob.
not great, Bob, but I don't think that there was any illusion on anyone's part that Dylan Sampson was going to be a run-heavy volume type running back. This is a guy who's more adept in the passing game. Quinshon Judkins, apparently 6.1 yards per carry. I want to see this guy 15 to 20 carries a game in this offense. And I want to highlight this comment here we've got in the chat. Got to go back and find it here. Quinshon Judkins being available in so many leagues still makes absolutely zero sense to me. That's from Herms, Mr. FTN Fantasy over there. It makes zero sense to me too, especially knowing what we know about an offense that they need to be running the ball more. And if they had more adept guys to run the ball, they would be running the ball more. They've shied away from the run the first 2 weeks, but now we've got Quinshon Judkins, 6.1 yards per carry. I think he's a 15 to 20 carry a game guy moving forward. Kevin, how do you feel about that?
I mean, probably, but they're still not going to give up the ghost on Jerome Ford. And then Dylan Sampson is going to get work in the passing game. So,
which is fine with me.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm totally fine with them kind of just working it out to where maybe Judkins gets some of the early down work, and then some of the goal line stuff. Jerome Ford maybe comes in on pass pro, obvious situations with receiving, third downs and whatnot, long down and distance. You're probably, putting Dylan Sampson out there. But yeah, if that's the case, and then I'm like totally fine with this split if it's like defined roles like that. But yeah, we have to kind of be on the lookout for the hammer to drop from Roger Goodell on whether Judkins is going to get suspended or not. So that's going to be we have to look out for that every day here, at least in the immediate future. But other than that, if he's playing, I mean, he's probably more of like a desperation flex at this point versus somebody that are like looking to start, because
at this point, sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably. Yeah, I feel like if he doesn't get suspended this week or something like that and he plays, he's probably getting a little bit more of a ramp up in work. It's going to come at the expense of Jerome Ford. So you're probably going to see him probably into like 30% routes, 35% snaps. And like, that's totally fine. So that's probably you're going to get an incremental ramp up there with Judkins. So like, I'm fine with it, but it's still the Browns offense. I'm still kind of like very hesitant to want to trust that.
But why? Kidding. Obviously, we know they're awful.
It's too late for you to throw that and make me have to actually think about if you're serious or not.
I wouldn't make you say something serious about that, Kevin. Come on now.
I know. All right, let's go over to the last early game here, and we'll get through the last few games here because we're over the hour point here. Detroit and Chicago. Detroit didn't look great against Green Bay, but rolled up on the Chicago Bears, 52-21. Monterey St. Brown's pretty good. Don't know if you heard that, but
I've heard rumors.
Many are saying, I remember back in the day, a takesman on X, twitter.com, did say that Amon-Ra St. Brown was the next Tyler Boyd. That person, whoever that may be, the mystery person, definitely not feeling that take at this point in time. 9 for 115, 3 touchdowns for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah. Jameson Williams, 2 for 108 and a touchdown. Brock Wright got a touchdown. Sam Laporta didn't really do much, 3 for 26 on 4 targets. But Jahmyr Gibbs, 12 for 94 and a touchdown, plus 3 catches for 10 yards through the air. David Montgomery got back at our good graces, 11 for 57 and a touchdown with a catch for 4 yards. So the guys that we thought were going to eat 8. That's the Detroit Lions today.
Yeah, Jared Goff looked great, 5 touchdowns. Hopefully you started him, at least in your 2 QB leagues. Don't know a lot of people starting him in 1 QB leagues right now, but this was the team.
You're going to pick up somebody for Burrow.
God, that's brutal. Stupid turf toe. But yeah, and if you do need to pick someone up and Jared Goff's on your waiver wire, he's a guy I would advocate absolutely. I was waiting in drafts on quarterback because I knew I could get Jared Goff 10th, 11th, 12th round. I know there are a lot of people who were worried about this Detroit team last week. All that is Green Bay's defense is ridiculous.
Yes, sir.
They're terrifying.
Gotta love it. As a Packer fan, I'm loving every single second of it. But
and I'm gonna have to listen to you about it all goddamn season.
Look, I'm gonna be the one banging the drum and saying that you probably shouldn't start like half those guys in fantasy. That's what I'm gonna be saying, because it is what it is. But we're not here to talk about the Packers. What are some Kamara upgrades? Like you're looking
I actually meant to Goff's a free agent in my league right now. Nick, go get him. Go get him.
I mean, if you have Burrow, like some guys you can look for, like if Dak Prescott is out there for whatever reason, I would even say Caleb Williams is out there, and we'll talk about him in a second here. Those guys are readily available. Maybe even Justin Herbert for some reason if he's out there. I know he has yet to play, but he was drafted in that same range as like the Jared Goff, that whole play. But let's go over to the Chicago Bears side, because Rome Odunze had a massive game today. 7 for 128, 2 touchdowns, 172 air yards today. Led the team with 10 targets, 100% route participation. You'll love to see it. DJ Moore, 5 for 46. Not super great, but I think we're looking at Rome here as kind of usurping DJ Moore as the top target on this team. Olamide Zaccheaus is holding the slot seat warm for Luther Burden right now. Luther Burden is a priority hold in leagues right now, because I do think Luther Burden is eventually going to be taking those slot snaps away from Olamide Zaccheaus, who ran in the slot on 82% of his snaps today. So that defined role is going to be Luther Burden's at some point into the middle of the season, hopefully. Colston Loveland, very tough. His routes, I think, bumped up a little bit. I think he was at like 30% last week, up to 50% now. But still, obviously, you can't trust him right now. The ramp up is still kind of ongoing here, because Cole Kmet is still running like 80% of routes. And then DeAndre Swift, 12 for 163 and a touchdown. Kyle Monangai getting involved, 7 for 28 as well on the ground, plus a couple targets. Like, the Bears are very condensed, but it's good to see Rome Odunze kind of asserting himself, because he always was running routes last season when it was DJ Moore and Keenan Allen with a rookie Odunze, and now we're starting to see Odunze kind of assert himself. DJ Moore is taking the shorter A-dot role. I mean, he had that last season, but I think that's even more pronounced this season, where he's getting like some rush attempts as well. But he kind of feels a little, less than compared to a guy like Rome Odunze, who's kind of taking that mantle as the top receiver for Caleb Williams and the Bears.
I expected this out of Odunze. I thought we were going to be closer to week 5, week 6 before he was the guy who was really taking over here, which is why I drafted DJ Moore. I thought we were going to get a little bit more DJ Moore love for a little bit longer. Unfortunately, my Kings Classics teams are going to hurt from that. But I backed it up with Rome Odunze, especially in the auction portion, at least. This is an interesting offense. I don't think this is a team that's going to be confused for being a playoff contender. But I think that DeAndre Swift is a viable start. I'm interested to see a Monangai and see what kind of traction he can get in this offense. I don't know that it's going to be a ton, but he does become viable. I really do believe if DeAndre Swift gets hurt. And Rome Odunze, man, what a day from this kid. And it's good to see that. You wanted to see it. I think we expected this maybe to happen last season for a little while, until we realized, well, with Matt Eberflus, it just wasn't ever going to happen. No. And despite getting blown out today, Odunze looked great.
Yeah, Odunze looked awesome. The way we're looking with like the Chicago offense is that the tight ends, at least right now, aren't super involved. That's going to be a work in progress.
Sure.
But like Odunze at the top and like DJ Moore is like a lower end wide receiver 3 is like totally fine. Other than that, you can't really trust anybody. And maybe DeAndre Swift on the ground. 12 for 63 and a touchdown, only 44% of the rush attempts, with Monangai getting 7 of them, plus Caleb Williams getting a handful of carries as well. So I think it's what's going to be interesting is the Roshan Johnson stuff with when he comes back and how that works out with Monangai, because Monangai has been out there quite a bit, and it's fair to say based on this usage that I don't know if Roshan Johnson's even going to be like viable. I mean, not that he's viable anyway, but like when you're looking at the contingent play for if something happens to Swift, you're probably the first name on your mind is not going to be Roshan Johnson as it has been for like the last season or two. So totally fine with that. And let's go over to the late games now with Indianapolis and your Denver Broncos. Spencer Schrader hitting a game-winning field goal, under dubious circumstances with a leverage penalty after Schrader missed, I think it was 60 yarders. I think it was a 60-yard field goal.
He was short on his 60-yarder, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was a 15-yard penalty and then brought that back up to 45, and Schrader nailed it. But for the Colts, look, I mean, Michael Pittman's fine. We saw a little bounce back game from Josh Downs leading the team in targets. Probably not going to be the norm because I think Tyler Warren has put his stamp on this offense. 84% of the routes, got a rushing attempt today, 7 targets, 4 for 79. This offense looks different, and it's because of Tyler Warren being a factor in the intermediate part of the field, where we've seen Josh Downs kind of be that guy in the intermediate as like the pure slot guy. But Daniel Jones, when he runs like the RPO stuff, in the past, it's been 2 years ago with Gardner Minshew. The first read was Michael Pittman. Last season, because of like Pittman's back injury, we saw that with Josh Downs, with like Anthony Richardson and stuff like that. This season, it's like the Daniel Jones working with Shane Steichen to get the RPO stuff, but it's with Tyler Warren, which has transformed this offense to where it's running like a functional thing. And Jonathan Taylor certainly helping his cause, 165 yards on the ground on 25 carries. It played 2 for 50 and a touchdown. Massive day. The RB1 right now in fantasy as we get into the Monday games. But yeah, I think not enough is said about Tyler Warren as far as his transformative, just that presence being there, turning the Colts into like a middling offense to like one that we can maybe have some more confidence in now.
Yeah, I said all week this was the test for me. This offense looked so good against Miami, but then they had to face a real defense this week in Denver, and they did. And Jonathan Taylor, 165 yards. My God, it was as painful as a Broncos fan to watch and listen to. But what I took away from it is Shane Steichen has his team headed in the right direction. This Tyler Warren's the real deal. You and I both were not very high on him heading into the season.
I said I was wrong on Blue Sky today. I said I was wrong.
And I was wrong. Tyler Warren is that dude. He is very good, and he really has changed this offense. Dare I say, this Indy team might be a contender in the AFC South, even though they're in the northern part of the United States.
Well, it's like Dallas being in the East.
I know, it's so dumb. But this is a team that I think they can contend. Daniel Jones is fantasy viable. And what's most interesting to me, because we all, I think, assumed that if Daniel Jones was going to be fantasy relevant, it meant that Jonathan Taylor couldn't be. Or if this team was going to play well and Daniel Jones was playing well, it meant that Jonathan Taylor just couldn't have that level of workload because it meant Daniel Jones had to be on the ground. What did Daniel Jones have today? He had, 2 carries for 1 yard? 6 carries for 2 yards today. They didn't need him to run, and he was able to play well without running. He was a fantasy viable quarterback without running. We're in a new world with this quarterback and with this Indy team. I'm going to need just like another minute to just kind of absorb this and figure out what the F is going on in Indianapolis.
Yeah. And look, and it's still, we talk about getting another sample, another data point here. Remember, this time last season, we were talking about the Saints and, being, a transformative offense under Clint Kubiak. We still have a lot of time here, but the signs here are encouraging. Where it was last season, where you had pretty much the same weapons just being used a little bit differently with Clint Kubiak, and then kind of the bloom fell off the rose a little bit there. I do think it's different now that you have a new quarterback. You don't have Anthony Richardson there. You now have Tyler Warren as a massive part of this offense, and then you add, the Michael Pittman on the outside. You add the deep threat of Alec Pierce and Adonai Mitchell, and then Josh Downs on the inside, Jonathan Taylor on the ground. Like there's a lot of weapons here. Like people want to crap on the Colts, but like any team would like kill for like all of these weapons together. Like you got your running back, you got more than capable receivers, you got a borderline elite tight end now. Like Daniel Jones. I'm going to go look at the comeback player of the year odds right now, and I would bet you anything Daniel Jones is at the top of that right now. Yeah,
it's got to be.
But let's talk about Denver because we've talked.
Can we not, Kevin? Can we just skip?
We can talk about Troy Franklin, 8 for 89 and a touchdown on 9 targets.
I loved it. I loved that.
Well, the thing is, like with the Broncos, you don't get any of the other receivers outside of Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton was only, you usually see 95 to 100% routes with him, and you only saw 79% of routes today. Maybe that was just a blip. He only had one reception for 6 yards. But Troy Franklin kind of took that baton today, at least. And hopefully that's something to build on. But you and I know Sean Payton. We trust him about as far as we can throw him, and that ain't far. To where I need to see it like 7 more times in a row before I buy into like that. Before I buy into like Troy Franklin as like a guy, he's going to be a speculative ad. Like when we do our waiver wire, like Troy Franklin is going to be in there, but he's not going to get like the glowing, you have to add him. He's only going to be a speculative ad right now, because we know how Sean Payton loves to jerk around the route shares of his wide receivers and tight ends and running backs. And this is just, it's one big merry-go-round of, just play the circus music.
Well, here's the thing. Here are the other players who also had targets in this Denver Broncos offense today. Tyler Beatty, Pat Bryant, Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, Trent Sherfield Sr. This is a Sean Payton offense. They're going to spread it out. I had 3, just no catches. And when you think about it, what this team is actually going to be moving forward, we don't know. We don't know who's going to get the targets one week or the other. Your best bet every week is going to be Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
It's not Troy Franklin. This was fun. I'm glad to see Troy Franklin get some usage, get a touchdown. It was nice to see him connect with Bo Nix, his college quarterback, but I don't believe that that's going to happen next week.
So it's a 1 week sun run. I think that's what we got from Troy Franklin, and we can pick him up with the hopes that if you're picking him up, you're not picking him up to start him. You're picking him up hoping it's a speculative kind of play to where maybe Troy Franklin can be another consistent route runner on this team for a team that, other than Sutton, doesn't do that. That's not what they do. Evan Engram is a 60% routes guy in this team. Like right now, we know Evan Engram has been awesome for the last couple seasons as far as like a target earning, tight end, but that's just not what Sean Payton does. It's never been what Sean Payton does. Like just going back to his days with the Saints and all of those running backs that he used to have and all the wide receiver, Robert Meacham, Lance Moore, Devery Henderson, you name it, with all these wide receivers.
Colston.
Yep. Keith Kirkwood, guys like that, where they have so many players with so many like defined roles, and Sean Payton has to like get his toys out and put them all on the floor and use them. That's what he is right now. What he is using though, he is using J.K. Dobbins. 14 for 76 and a touchdown, 58% of the running back attempts, or the team rush attempts, I should say. RJ Harvey 5 for 8 on the ground and then 1 catch for 16 yards. He is a work in progress as well. Right now, it is J.K. Dobbins getting a lot more run on the ground. He feels like the trusted guy right now. That could certainly change as we get in the midseason, where we could see kind of a changeover there. I do still think J.K. Dobbins will be involved, but just cutting off the upside for like any of these running backs is still giving Tyler Bidet 2 targets, getting him any work on the ground, getting him any work on the field, like with those 2 running backs. Like it sucks because we could still get more from J.K. Dobbins, but like what we're getting is fine. Like he's like a borderline RB1 right now. He's RB14 before, Sunday night's game, 15 and a half fantasy points. But like we could be getting more, and it's because he uses everybody. He uses a fullback, Adam Prentice. He uses Bidet. He uses all these like ancillary tight ends. It sucks.
Troutman gets a touchdown.
That's the headline.
That's all you need to know. Adam Troutman gets a touchdown.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some other teams. The team, Arizona Cardinals and the Carolina Panthers, 2 teams that actively wanted to lose that game. Turns out the Carolina Panthers wanted it more, lost to the Arizona Cardinals, 27-22. For the Cardinals side here, Trey McBride, 6 for 78, 7 targets. You like to see it. The wide receivers didn't really do much in that game. Marvin Harrison, 2 for 27, 4 targets. It was not a great game outside of Trey McBride for any of the pass catchers. Like Trey Benson getting involved, where he's pretty much absorbed all of Emari Demercado stuff from last season as like the 3rd down guy. That's been like the main sticking point for Trey Benson, where Trey Benson ran more routes than James Conner did. He only had 3 carries for 14 yards, but Trey Benson is getting a lot more standalone value with each given week. So like he needs to be a priority hold in the way that we're talking about like Bashal Tutin, and then the way we're talking about like a Tyler Algier or a Ray Davis, where if those guys, go down, we're seeing a massive uptick in running back work. But James Conner, 11 for 34 on the ground, a touchdown, 1 catch for 18 yards. It's still like Conner's backfield for now. I'm not like super concerned about it, but it's more of a 2-person backfield with Benson getting a lot more work. Whether from last season, we know Emari Demercado took a lot of like random 3rd down, long down and distance role as like the smaller, like kind of scat back kind of deal. And that's all gone to Benson, which is great.
Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't make me want to start him in fantasy, really.
No.
I mean, we weren't starting Demercado, but it's a sign that maybe as Connor starts to age out and we get into next season, we'll start to see a little bit more Trey Benson. But otherwise, I'm with you. Marvin Harrison, he had the 5 targets, had the 2 catches. Outside of Trey McBride, there's nothing really that exciting about this offense. We knew that coming into this season, though. We talked about it repeatedly. We wanted to see Marvin Harrison take a step up, but he's not going to in this offense. Not with Kyler Murray, not with Jonathan Gannon as the head coach. I just don't see it happening.
I mean, he can. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we just had a blip here, but like last week was pretty good, and then this week.
I think last week was more of the blip.
I don't know about that. I don't know if he can really definitively say that. I mean, he's still out there on 97% of routes.
Sure.
The way they go through a lot of their guys, like Michael Wilson, is still just kind of like a borderline. I mean, he's playing more in the slot than he has in like previous seasons. He's kind of splitting with stuff with Greg Dortch there, and then playing some outside as well. But they are moving Marvin Harrison in the slot, which is very helpful for his value, where he was kind of stuck as an X receiver last year. So I think we're seeing some like stylistic improvements with Marvin Harrison. So like not worried about like him at all, at least right now, where Kyler Murray can more than support 2 pass catchers, obviously can support Trey McBride. I just think it's going to be more of a wait and see with Marvin Harrison, where maybe he's not a wide receiver 2, how we were drafting him. Maybe he's more wide receiver 3 right now because he is a bit more volatile. But I do think that, as we're starting to get, I mean, look, it takes these guys a little bit longer sometimes. Like we're spoiled by the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases, the Brandon Ayuk's, Garrett Wilsons, those guys that just come out and are studs from like, the beginning of the season and then just are on a massive rocket ship. Sometimes we don't get that. And maybe Marvin Harrison's kind of taking a slow ramp up to it.
I mean, and that very well may be it. I think for a lot of us though, like the name capital being Marvin Harrison Jr.
If he was Fred Jones, what would you think of him?
Yeah.
If he were Fred Jones, he'd be a 5th round pick.
Yeah, sure. Fair point.
Yeah. Well, one wide receiver we don't have to really worry about is Ted McMillan, 6 for 100 on 9 targets in the Carolina Panthers loss to the Cardinals. To the Cardinals. Hunter Renfrow, oh dear God, 7 for 48 and 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, if Xavier Legette's not going to be a thing, no, I still can't do it. I'm not starting Hunter Renfrow. I'm sorry. I would have already cut him. If he were in my family, he would have already been cut out of my will too. But
sit at the kids' table.
Pretty much, yeah. You only get 1 role. Adults get 2. Jatavian Sanders, 10 targets leading the team, 7 for 54. We talked about last week too that he was getting more routes over Tommy Tremble. Good to see that kept going and then earning 10 targets on top of that. But yeah, I do think this offense is going to be volatile in terms of target earning because we're going to get Jatavian Sanders or Hunter Renfrow as like the second guy. Maybe it'll be Legette, randomly if he can find something. Maybe it'll be Coker when he comes back. Could be Chuba Hubbard. He had 6 targets today. Something called Bryson Tremaine, who is a total human that I've never heard of until I saw him pop up on my television with 5 targets. So that is also a thing. But yeah, Ted McMillan, I think the takeaway here is Ted McMillan's top dog and not ceding that to anybody.
No, Ted McMillan's top dog. There's nobody else in this offense I'm even remotely interested in starting in fantasy. Bryce Young, no thanks.
Chuba Hubbard. Our Canadian king.
I do love Chuba. I just don't know that they're going to be in a position to run enough for him to be fantasy viable at some point.
75% of the routes, 74% of the snaps. How many touches did he get? 15 touches today for 77 yards. Had a receiving touchdown as well. 50.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Of the rush attempts. Yeah, he'll take that. I mean, a sizable rollover, a guy like Rico Dowdle, who's
that's
6
fair.
carries for 9 yards. I mean, locked in. RB2. I mean, you can't beat that.
I just hate this Carolina offense so much. But I like Chuba.
It should be better. It's Andy Bernard in the car in the office. Like, I wanted it to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I think we thought they were going to take a step forward. They obviously have not.
Yeah. But let's go to the other game, the last game that we're going to talk about today. Philadelphia and Kansas City, which Super Bowl rematch. But you know what? I think it kind of sucked today.
It did.
In terms of fantasy stuff. We saw 14 targets go to the combination of A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith with no Dallas Goedert. That's great. The fact that they had 66% of the targets in that offense. That's great, except the two combined for 9 catches for 80 yards between the two of them. Not great. Yeah. 5 for 27 for A.J. Brown, 4 for 53 for Devonta Smith. Nobody else. Only Saquon Barkley had more than 1 catch. Only in the next highest yardage total was Barkley at 6 yards. Calcaterra at 6 yards. Jalen Hurts didn't have a great day on the through the air. The passing game is an afterthought for the most part in Philly. Saquon Barkley, 22 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. If you're into that kind of thing, Jalen Hurts obviously had his touchdown as well. Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles, ladies and gents.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to say about? I mean, really, either one of these teams. This is old hat at this point. There isn't a whole lot that's different. We know what these teams are. Saquon Barkley's going to Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts is going to Jalen Hurts, except in these situations.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts, 101 yards passing, 22 pass attempts, had 15 yards rushing and a touchdown. They don't care about your fantasy scoring. They they don't. And neither do the Kansas City Chiefs. A little bit better, barely. A little bit better on the passing end, though, because Patrick Mahomes, 187 yards and a touchdown and an interception. Mahomes again leading the Kansas City Chiefs in rushing, 7 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. The running game is definitely not great, Bob, for the Kansas City Chiefs, but at least through the air, Travis Kelce, 4 for 61. So still a podcaster there. Hollywood Brown, we were hoping to get a little more volume out of him compared to his 16 targets last week, 5 for 30 this week. Tyquan Thornton caught a deep ball, 2 for 59 in the touchdown, 165 air yards. Like, the intent of this Chiefs offense, throw the friggin' ball deep to Tyquan Thornton and then throw short everywhere else. Like, this offense is just without Rashee Rice, without Xavier Worthy.
Oh, it's a mess.
It's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a disaster.
It is a disaster. I mean, Tyquan Thornton ran 79% of the routes, 76% for Juju Smith-Schuster, 79% for Hollywood Brown. That's like your 3 wide receivers. Yeah. And then other than that, like, I guess I'm fine starting Hollywood Brown like as a low end flex option. I had to pick up Juju in that guillotine that we're in. It only cost me a couple bucks. Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm doing pretty good, actually.
I'm doing terrible because the draft sucked for me.
Dude, you're at the 101 and I had the 118. I don't want to hear it.
It stopped notifying me of my picks, and I got autoed 3 rounds in a row. Do you know who I got? CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, Tua.
I was wondering why you had so many quarterbacks.
I didn't want them. Brian Drake and I have bitched endlessly about the function of that app. So
it's funny because I texted Drake about that too. We probably shouldn't be talking. We shouldn't be waxing poetic about that.
Well, no one knows what we're talking about anyway. It's fine.
Well, yeah. Yeah. But the Chiefs right now are like really hard to trust. They're a dumpster fire. Yeah. They're 0-2. Haven't been 0-2 in a very long time. I don't think since Patrick Mahomes has been the starter. Yeah.
He's never been 0-2.
So they need to find out what they're going to do on offense. As far as the Eagles, it's working. So screw the passing game. Who needs that? We have Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
So that's where we're at.
AJ Brown, folks. That is a wrap. We made it. We did an hour and 40 minutes, about what we did last week.
I mean, we're talking about all these games. It's going to happen.
We're here for the people. That's right. If you listened,
that's a pull.
Maybe that is a pull. You know what's a real pull? You know who grew up watching Eric Bieniemy play in college?
By the way, bruh, I think I would do this to get Brian Thomas.
Yep.
For Dunes and Jones.
Too.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we really did it this time. We went an hour and 40 minutes, but thanks for rolling with us. It's been a blast, guys. I want to remind you to head over to optimusfantasy.com, check out our rankings, our articles, and most importantly, hit that tools tab. Go check those out. They're pretty awesome. If you sign up today with the promo code 3, you can get $10 off your first 3 months. Live data updated every 15 minutes during games.
Yep.
It's advanced. It's everything. It's everything you need to make your decisions, to help you see the games the way that you want to see them, and to win every week. Not just in fantasy, but DFS. It helps you with betting. It's all of it. It's all the stats, Kevin. It's every single one.
Yep.
Who could need more? Nobody.
I mean, some sickos out there, but it's for the sickos, by the sickos.
For the sickos, by the sickos. And real quick, I just want to remind y'all, head over to Discord. We have got it all over there. Redraft insights, dynasty discussions, DFS advice, bets. We even occasionally talk about movies. I mean, why not? It's part of life, right?
I mean, many are saying, but tomorrow we will have Dave Kluge on Clock Management.
Yes.
And that will actually be a different time. It's going to be at 1 Central, 2 Eastern. A little bit later than last week's with Andrew Cooper. But that will be on the YouTube at 2:00 and posted everywhere. You can find Optimus, so check that out. it'll be a lot of fun talking about some week 2 stuff with Mr. Dave.
Yeah, it should be a good time, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be tuned in. Make sure you're tuned in. And to be tuned in, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this beautiful, wonderful channel.
Yeah.
Kevin will be back tomorrow morning. I'll be back tomorrow night with Waiver Wire with Evan. And then we'll be here all week talking about all the fantasy stuff you could ever want. For Kevin Tompkins, I'm Nate Palvo. We're going to get the hell out of here and go to bed so we can be back at it for you tomorrow morning. Good luck with your Monday night games. You got 2 of them tomorrow night, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.